Welcome back to Comics Corner. It's been a minute since I just spoke to y'all. You know what I'm saying? I got something to say though, something really important that I wanted to discuss today. Shout out to all the fathers. Happy Father's Day. I'm not really a holiday person, so I'm really saying it as a formality. But I wanted to talk today about how important fathers really are, and I figured what better way to do that than to introduce you to my favorite father in all of anime, right? So if you've seen the thumbnail, you know who it is. So I'll be discussing him. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share with you two scriptures that I feel like go with the theme of the video for the day. So here they come right quick. The first scripture reads this way: train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's Proverbs 22:6. And the other scripture I have reads, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. That's Matthew 5:5. Now let's get into the rest of the video. Also, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. If you like it, it'll probably encourage me to do more videos like this. I'm just saying. And go watch some of my gameplay and stuff like that. But here we go. Let's get it going. Hey. Spoiler warning. Because I done made this whole video and forgot to say spoiler warning. You won't know that because this is going to be before that. But if you ain't seen Vinland Saga, get up out of here and go watch it so I don't spoil nothing. Or if you don't care about spoilers, continue to watch. But we out of here. I'll see you guys in a couple of seconds. Haha. Now, when we talk about characters from Vinland Saga, who is Thors? Thors is the father of the main character. He plays a major role in the shaping of the narrative of the series. We start the narrative off seeing the amazing warrior that Thors is. He's a member of a Viking crew, and their expertise are in pillaging and destroying things. There's nothing left in their wake after they come through, and Thors is among the very best of those. You know what I'm saying? He is probably the best fighter in his entire group and respected by all of them for his abilities. Now, at some point during this lifetime of pillaging, war, fighting, he gets tired of it, and he desires to live somewhat differently. We don't really know what that somewhat differently is at the moment, but you begin to see shades of it as we continue on with the narrative of the series. There's one scene in particular that shows you the growth of Thors, and it's not something that you will notice immediately because all you saw was the warrior Thors, and then you see the father Thors, right? But there's a moment when his wife gives birth to their first child, their daughter, and the way that Thors holds the baby is indicative of his understanding of a gentle life. You know what I mean? He has no clue what that means. However, as you see him in the fatherly role outside of this moment, you begin to understand the life that he desired and why he wanted to get away from the wars and the violence. Essentially, Thors fakes his death on the battlefield, and he runs away with his family in tow after his first daughter is born. His daughter is born. This is his first child. He eventually has another child. His daughter's name is Ilda, and his son's name will be Thorfinn, who's the main character of the series. Now, Thorfinn admires his father, and there's a member of their village who speaks of adventures on a regular basis. And what Thorfinn would love to do is to go out and go on these adventures that this man has been speaking about since he was a child, ever since he could remember. He is a child at this point in the series, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Early on, it's easy to see that despite him not being that warrior that he was in this village, he is still very much so looked up to by the people within the community. So much so that it appears that he has taken on a leadership role, not even necessarily one that he asked for. It's almost like, I respect you so much that we just gonna come to you with all the stuff and you got the answer. Like, that's how it appears. And I think this type of thing gives you a proper understanding of the type of person that Thors has become, but you don't see the in-between. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I mentioned the birth scene before, is because there's obviously been a shift in this character. He was once a warrior, and now he desires peace and tranquility. Granted, we still don't actually see this evidence of real change until this moment in the series right here. Upon falling off of this building, his daughter discovers a slave in the snow. And obviously, this is a time period where slavery is okay, it's allowed. His daughter was asking, why don't we just have slaves? Why can't we just have slaves do this work? And he said, we do things differently out here. This is indicative of a change in mindset. Throughout this time period, there was nothing but slavery every single place. And so showing kindness to slaves is probably something that would be 100% frowned upon, especially when the people who owned said slaves would come to retrieve their property. Now, you see, it was probably unheard of at this time to even think of treating a slave like a person. So imagine the shock on people's faces when Thors decided that he was willing to give up of his own livestock in order to save the life of a slave, right? And despite it seeming to be a useless gesture, because the slave ended up dying anyway, he stood on his principles as a man. And this was something that sets up the understanding of his kindness and the way that he began to view the world and lives, as it were. Because see, as a warrior, you're taught that life doesn't really have the same type of meaning. It's really nothing to take your sword and to slay people, and that's what made you strong. But Thors began to see the holes in that ideology. In truth, seeing a war fought, each side both thinks themselves is correct, right? So the winners deem themselves as correct and right. But Thors' ideology began to help him to see that people are just people. There is no right and wrong, and there is no better or worse. Like, I'm not a better man than you just because I won the war, and my cause is not more correct than yours is. While Thors was doing this, you could see that it was impacting his son in ways, because there were things that his son didn't really understand about the world. And so seeing his father move in this ways that would be probably contrary to what he's been taught or has seen or has even been told about in stories was probably a positive in the long run. But in the moment, he was very confused, which makes sense. There's going to be a lot of times as kids we don't understand what our fathers are doing or what they're going through. But it's important for them to be there to teach us the things that we need to know, so that at some point in our life we can go back on this information and apply it to our lives. These slave drivers would not be the only guests to show up to Iceland, because not long afterwards, some of the people he used to run with showed up to get him for some more wars. You know what I'm saying? Basically, the king sent them to acquire people, even deserters, for a big war that they had coming up, right? And the position that Thors was in is very important for you to understand and to grasp. It wasn't a situation where Thors was blood hungry and he decided that he wanted to go to war because he wanted to have some more fun. No, Thors had created a peaceful life, and he didn't want it to be stripped away, and he didn't want other people to face the consequences of what? His own personal actions. Thors had abandoned his post, and with that came a consequence. The consequence of, if anyone ever finds us, we will die. Thors full well understood that. He understood the code of the Vikings that he ran with. And so going to war was not an act that he desired to do, but instead it was a desire to protect those people. Do you get what I'm saying? Ironically, this situation was misunderstood by his son, who desires to be a warrior, who desires to go on adventures and to do all of these amazing things. He perceived his father's situation and his desire to go to war as literally a desire to go to war and be a warrior once more. This is what leads to this famous scene that I'm about to show you right now.
You don't have enemies. The truth is that nobody has them. Nobody in this entire world deserves to get hurt.
This is a concept that many people will never truly understand. At times it feels as though this sentiment is ridiculous, but I believe that what Thors did here implanted a seed that would exist within Thorfinn up until the ending of season 2. If anyone here has seen season 2, you absolutely understand the gravity of what Thors was saying to his son here and how it carried him through the rest of the series. This event seemed to be something that was a positive. In one sense, Thors gets to go and take on his responsibility, and the village gets to, continue to thrive. However, there is a possibility of genuine bloodshed. And you can sense the gravity of it on Thors as they travel throughout the sea. Find out Thorfinn tagged along, because his son wants to be around his dad. I think that Thors represents more than just a father figure to Thorfinn. But when now thinking about it and what I said about the village, he takes on that role for them as well, understanding that they didn't ask to be brought into the situation that they're in. However, now someone has to take on the responsibility for what's going to happen to them. And when I say what's going to happen to them, if you've seen the series, you know, but if you haven't, the next set of events set into motion the entire rest of the narrative, and it is something that is very heavy that's about to take place. As they pass through this gorge, they get caged in on one end, and you find out that these people have been set up. Obviously, the people that are on the boat with Thors are not warriors. None of them have ever seen combat for real. And that was something that was really important for us to understand. That's what all of this was leading to. And so as the warriors on the other boats come at them, Thors shows us why he is who he said he is. They call him the Giant of Jom or something like that? The troll, my bad, the troll of Jom. You know what I'm saying? It is here we see that the man who told his son he has no enemies clearly can handle himself. And so you have to wonder, what is it that is prompting him to be so soft? Does he understand something that we do not? Does he see fighting and violence completely differently than we do? And sure enough, as this goes on, you get your answer. In an effort to secure the safety of everyone that has been traveling with him, he challenges the enemy leader to a duel. Winner gets what they want, ironically. And as this clash goes on, you can even see the difference in who he is. If you just watch the scenes from this part of the series, he didn't kill a single person on that boat. And it was pointed out by Askeladd himself. Nobody died. I wonder why. It is because he values life and has chosen to preserve yours. At no point did he wish anyone would perish. Sound familiar? As the fight goes on, Askeladd is sharply defeated by someone who has outmatched him in every way. And this is when the story takes a turn. Okay? Because in that moment, Askeladd begs to be finished, and Thors lowers his sword. And he explains that he's weak because he has to use that weapon.
The reason I rely on a weapon like this is because I'm weak. One who's a great warrior doesn't need a sword.
To which Askeladd obviously doesn't agree. He is still within his warrior phase, and he has his own mission, but that's neither here nor there. It is within this time that, I forgot his name, I think it's Bjorn, jumps over to the boat and grabs baby Thorfinn and holds a knife to his neck, right? Thors, in response to this, holds his sword back up at Askeladd. He tells him that he won the duel and that you violated, the rules. He said, yeah. Then he laughed and said, I would never really, actually abide by the rules. You crazy. I got a job to do, right? All crazy stuff. But the part that is gut-wrenching is the acceptance that Askeladd had of the loss. And as he accepts his loss, he drops his hand and arrows rain down upon the mighty Thors.
The winner of this duel is Thors the Troll.
My jaw dropped when I saw this scene. I had built up so much attachment to this character, even within the short span of time he was on the screen. He had imparted so much into me, and he showed me that he was willing to do whatever it took to secure the lives of his family members. Still standing, he turns to Askeladd and says, "You'll keep your word." Askeladd swears it. Then he looks at Bjorn and says, "Let my boy go!" And he does. The younger of the group tries to fight Askeladd, not understanding the true gravity of what had taken place. But it had already been secured for them. There are a couple of other things that Thors had secured for them to make sure that the village was safe. He told them to take his head so that the Viking king doesn't think that he tried to run again. It's just a lot of making sure that other people were taken care of in place of himself, because he had done what it took to get them into that position. And so now he is also doing everything that it takes to get them out. You see what I'm saying? While imparting wisdom upon his child. His son was there, and his son saw every situation and every event that took place and how his father handled it. And while in the moment he could not completely grasp or understand it, and it led him into a rage that he couldn't quite verbally express, down the line it becomes a pillar in who Thorfinn becomes. And I can't wait for y'all to see that. How does all of this apply to our sons and our children and the fathers of this generation? Well, in layman's terms, we all have a position to play. We all have things that we need to teach our children. There are things that children will never learn if you don't teach them. If you're absent from your child's life, then it's very likely that they will never ever grasp the lessons that a man really has to teach another man. And so when they grow, they only have their own personal experiences, which are skewed by their minds as children, right? But it's up to you as a man and a father at that to shape them and to make sure that they are functioning members of society in a way that is beneficial not only to themselves but to others, right? And a lot of people don't know how to control their emotions. I know this is I'm a little left, but hear me out. Being able to control your emotions as a man is probably the most important thing. And being willing to crash out and throw your life away for just about anything when you have things that are important to you is not the mark of a man, right? And so it is important that we have fathers in place who can show the sons that are coming up into the next generations what it really means to be stoic. Not in the sense that you hold off all emotion and you don't let nobody in, but just in a way that shows that I am very controlled in what I do, and I stand on my actions, and my actions are not overtly going to cause harm just because I'm upset. You know what I mean? That was something that Thors did. He was put in positions where any other man would have done something completely different. But because he understood the gravity of this situation, he assessed it, and he was able to make the proper decision to save the most lives. And at times we're going to have to do that for our entire families. We'll be faced with odds that are insurmountable, things that are trying to pull us under, things that are trying to take us out. But as long as we remain grounded, and obviously we have another father who is even above our earthly fathers that will really give us that extra push. But staying grounded in what it really means to be a man, and what it really means to hold fast to your own principles, and to protect what it is that is close to you and what really matters, it changes the landscape. But that's just the train up a child portion. The second thing, it goes back into the theme of the second Bible verse. Thors was a man who, while he was a warrior at one point, chose the life of someone who was meek. He chose a different lifestyle. And in that, you see that he found true strength. And that is what he tried to impart onto his son. It's ironic that these two things go together. I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson, and one of the things that he extrapolated from the text that says the meek shall inherit the earth, he took it away from its initial connotation that people take when they say meek meaning weak immediately. Jordan likes to say that blessed are those who have the capacity for danger and harm, but choose not to for the greater good. And that phrase literally embodies who Thors is and who a lot of men need to be. We die so much because of situations where we know that we can do harm and damage, and we choose to also do harm and damage. But it takes a different type of man, a different type of individual to see the situation the way Thors did, to analyze it and to choose the opposite of what is natural to you. You understand what I'm trying to say? So I hope that every man can watch this and take a piece of that and really apply it to their life in some way, shape, or form. If that doesn't apply to you, then share it with a man that you know that might need to know something like this. But I think that we are so important and pivotal to the community that we live in, and if we would just take the time to really take on these types of lessons and impart them onto the next generation, it would be a lot less violence. All of the things that we go out in the streets and try to fight for and protest about and talk about, I think a lot of that stuff would start to change. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. If you enjoy Vinland Saga, tell me who your favorite character is in the comments. If you haven't seen it, go watch it and then use my comment section and tell me how you thought it was. Thank y'all so much for watching. This is Comics Corner. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right.